All right, day three, activation, getting it done, just getting into the challenge and using the prompts and going through the Bible studies and finding people in the Bible who've been through things that you've been through so that you can bring those examples into your own life and use the prompts with Sage and chat to dig deeper into understanding how God wants to work in your life, right? So I love the story of Elijah because it shows a great example of how even people who've had powerful experiences with God can break down, and and how we should learn to just turn to Him in all things, to let go of fear and doubt. So the part I want to touch too quickly. I'll just read the first part of the story here to get to it. Elijah had seen fire fall from heaven. He had prayed with the kind of faith that shut the sky for 3.5 years and then opened it again with a single request. He had stood alone against hundreds of false prophets on Mount Carmel, drenched the altar in water, and watched God consume it all with fire in front of a nation. He was, by all appearances, a spiritual giant. He was a giant, this guy, right? A man who walked in divine authority, a man who shouldn't have struggled with fear or doubt. I don't know if this sounds familiar to some of you, because I struggle often, right? But he did. Elijah struggled because even the strongest people break. Right after his greatest victory, Elijah received a message from Jezebel, the ruthless queen who had orchestrated mass killings of the prophets of God. Her words were simple and deadly. By this time tomorrow, I'll make sure you are as dead as they are. And just like that, Elijah ran. This wasn't a strategic retreat. It was a full blown collapse. Are you picking this up? Does this sound? Can you relate to Elijah's knee jerk reaction to just want to escape, to get out of there? The same man who had called down fire, now fled into the wilderness alone, overwhelmed, unraveling. He walked until he could go no further, sat beneath a broom tree, and cried out to God, I've had enough, Lord. Take my life. Have you been there? Not necessarily praying for death, but done, right? Tired, burnt out, worn thin from carrying burdens you didn't ask for, questioning if anything you've done has made a difference, feeling like you failed, even after you tried your best. Elijah's words weren't rebellious, they were raw. They weren't unfaithful, they were honest. And God didn't punish him for them. God didn't punish him for them. He fed him. An angel appeared, not with a sermon, not with a correction, but with fresh baked bread and water. Then Elijah slept. And when he awoke again, God fed him again. There's something beautiful in that rhythm. Break, rest, nutrition, repeat. It's simple, right? God wasn't done with Elijah, but he didn't rush him back to the mission. He let him recover. After 40 days, Elijah made his way to Mount Horeb, the same mountain where Moses had once met with God. Elijah found a cave and hid inside, still unsure, still afraid, still searching for something more than fear. And God met him there too, but not in the ways Elijah expected. There was a mighty wind, but God wasn't in it. There was an earthquake, but God wasn't in that either. Then came fire, and still no sign of him. Finally came a gentle whisper. And that's where God was. Not in the chaos, not in the spectacle, not in the noise, not in the stillness. I'm going to read from, the First Kings 19:11 through 13 here in just a second, and in my study Bible. But it just reminds me. I get emails all the time, and I know where I'm at in this journey, and I often get overwhelmed with things that come at me, right? And sometimes they're like devastating things, like a life ending, right? When we lost Aiden, I'm just like, take me, Lord. I don't know. You don't know in that moment how you're going to get through it. And, I've had past situations where, um, when I got sick the first time, and we lost a business and just complete financial collapse, and everything's gone, right? And you wonder where God is in that. But often what you don't see at the moment is, and I now can look back and see that he was always there, and often it was just in the stillness, because when these things happen, he's still with you. When after Aiden passed, it wasn't good. It wasn't okay. But we were still together. The rest of our family, the three of us, were still here. We still have these memories of him. And after financial collapse, the honest truth is the sun still comes up. You still have air in your lungs. You still have the ability to think, and this ability to choose that God gave us. And sometimes we just choose not to see that he can be with us in that. And I get emails all the time. I got one. I've had a couple the last few days. And, from someone who's in a rough spot. And, I don't mean to make light of it at all. But it's like they've put God on a timer. They're going to lose their house in 4 days. And they need a miracle. And, it's kind of like I said yesterday. Oftentimes we get ourselves in these jams ourselves, and then we look for God to bail us out. And I'll just speak for myself, when I get caught up at looking at the circumstance, right, and let the circumstance have more control over me than the control that God has over everything, and just turning to him and saying, God, your will be done. When I get off track from that, I get swallowed up in those circumstances, and I let them control me. And it's a hard thing not to do. But when you allow yourself to turn to the Word, right, and listen for the gentle whisper, what I've found is that no matter what happens around me, I know God is with me. And there's not anything that he won't bring me through. Now, it may not be in the way that I want it to happen, right? For this, the person who sent me this email about 4 days until the bank takes their house. I mean, what's going to happen? What are you doing that's going to make a difference in that? I don't think, God really comes down and tops up people's bank accounts all that often. I think he's expecting us to turn to him and have faith in him and believe in him and give it to him, all those problems, but then listen for the action that he wants us to take, whatever that is. Now, anyways, moving from that, I just want to go to 1 Kings. This is the activation for day 3, because I think it's powerful. At 11, the Lord said to Elijah, talking to Elijah, the Lord said, "Go out and stand on the mountain in the presence of the Lord, for the Lord is about to pass by." Then a great and powerful wind tore the mountains apart and shattered the rocks before the Lord, but the Lord was not in the wind. After the wind was an earthquake, but the Lord was not in the earthquake. After the earthquake came fire, but the Lord was not in the fire. And after the fire came a gentle whisper. When Elijah heard it, he pulled his cloak over his face, went out and stood in the mouth of the cave. Then a voice said to him, "What are you doing, Elijah?" So in the study Bible, again, I love my NIV study Bible, it says Elijah knew the sound of a gentle whisper was God's voice. He realized that God doesn't reveal himself only in powerful, miraculous ways. Often that's all we're looking for, right? We're looking for the powerful, miraculous way that God can come down and fix our problems for us. To look for God only in something big, a rally, a church, a conference, a highly visible leader, may be to miss him because he is often found gently whispering in the quietness of a humbled heart. Are you listening for God? Step back from the noise and activity of your busy life and listen humbly and quietly for his guidance. It may come when you least expect it. Hey, I'm praying for your resurrection wherever you're at in all this. Turn to God, give it to him, believe in him, have faith that he's looking after everything for you, and learn to take action in your life to really overcome the circumstances, the challenges, the just all that stuff in life that just comes at you. Trust in God, work at it hard on your own. You're never going to be let down. All right, God bless.